I've always believed that the human body is a canvas, waiting to be adorned with stories etched in ink. As a tattoo artist in Boston for the past decade, I've seen my fair share of tales unfold in my shop. But nothing could have prepared me for the day Sadie walked in, her presence instantly illuminating the room like a burst of sunlight through storm clouds. At 35, I'd grown accustomed to the rhythmic hum of my tattoo machine, the familiar scent of antiseptic, and the kaleidoscope of colors that decorated my workspace. Yet, as I watched Sadie push open the door of Inked Dreams, my little sanctuary tucked away in the heart of Boston, I felt an inexplicable shift in the air. "Hi, I'm looking for Autumn?" Her voice was soft, yet confident, carrying a hint of intrigue that immediately piqued my interest. I stood up from my sketching table, brushing a strand of my auburn hair behind my ear. "That's me, welcome to Inked Dreams. How can I help you today?" Sadie stepped further into the shop, her eyes roaming over the artwork adorning the walls. She was younger than me, probably in her late 20s, with a grace that seemed almost out of place in my edgy, ink-splattered domain. Her chestnut hair fell in gentle waves around her shoulders, framing a face that could easily grace the cover of a magazine. "I'm interested in getting a tattoo," she said, a slight nervousness evident in her voice. "It's my first one, actually." I smiled, remembering my own first tattoo experience. "Well, you've come to the right place. Why don't we sit down and talk about what you have in mind?" As we settled into the consultation area, I couldn't help but notice the way Sadie's fingers delicately traced the designs in my portfolio. Her touch was gentle, almost reverent, as she explored page after page of my work. Our eyes met over the book, and I felt an unexpected spark of connection that sent a shiver down my spine. "These are beautiful," she murmured, her gaze lingering on a particularly intricate floral design. "You're incredibly talented, Autumn." I felt a warmth creep into my cheeks at her praise. "Thank you. I've been doing this for a while now. It's more than just a job, it's a passion." As Sadie described her vision for her tattoo, a delicate flower on her shoulder blade, I found myself captivated by more than just her ideas. There was something about her presence that drew me in, a quiet intensity that I couldn't quite place. We spent the next hour discussing designs, placement, and the tattooing process. I explained everything in detail, wanting to ensure she felt comfortable and informed. Throughout our conversation, I couldn't help but notice the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke about her work as a graphic designer, or how her laugh seemed to fill the room with a warmth I hadn't realized was missing. When it came time to begin the outline of her chosen design, I led Sadie to my station. As she settled into the chair, I felt an unexpected nervousness flutter in my stomach. I'd tattooed countless clients before, but something about this felt different. "Are you ready?" I asked, preparing my machine. Sadie nodded, taking a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be." As I began to work, the soft buzz of the tattoo machine filled the silence between us. The intimacy of the moment was palpable, my hands on her skin, carefully bringing her vision to life. I found myself hyper-aware of every breath, every slight movement she made. "So, what made you decide to get a tattoo now?" I asked, partly to distract her from any discomfort, but mostly out of genuine curiosity. Sadie was quiet for a moment before responding. "I guess I wanted something to mark a new chapter in my life. Something beautiful and permanent to remind me of the person I'm becoming." Her words resonated with me more than I cared to admit. As I continued to work, our conversation flowed effortlessly, touching on everything from our favorite books to our dreams for the future. With each passing minute, I found myself more and more intrigued by this woman who had walked into my shop, and possibly into my life. As I finished the outline of her tattoo, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment that our time together was coming to an end. "We'll need a few more sessions to complete the piece," I explained, secretly thrilled at the prospect of seeing her again. Sadie smiled as she examined the outline in the mirror. "It's perfect, Autumn. I can't wait to see the finished result." As she left the shop that day, I found myself standing in the doorway, watching her disappear down the street. Something had shifted in my world, and I had a feeling that Sadie's presence in my life was far from over. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would change everything. The weeks following Sadie's first appointment seemed to fly by in a blur of colors and sensations. Each time the bell above the shop door chimed, my heart would race, hoping to see her familiar figure step through. It was a feeling I hadn't experienced in years, a mix of excitement and nervousness that left me feeling both exhilarated and vulnerable. When Sadie did return for her next session, I found myself fumbling with my equipment, suddenly clumsy in a way I hadn't been since my apprentice days. She greeted me with a warm smile that seemed to light up the entire shop, and I felt my cheeks flush as I returned her greeting. "Ready for round 2?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Absolutely," Sadie replied, her eyes twinkling with anticipation. I've been looking forward to this all week as I began to work on her tattoo, adding depth and detail to the delicate flower on her shoulder blade. Our conversation flowed as easily as it had during our first meeting. Sadie told me about her work as a graphic designer, her eyes lighting up as she described her latest projects. I found myself sharing stories of my own journey as a tattoo artist, revealing parts of myself I usually kept hidden from clients. With each session, our bond grew stronger. I found myself looking forward to our appointments with an intensity that both thrilled and terrified me. Sadie wasn't just a client anymore. She was becoming something more, something I couldn't quite define. During one of our sessions, as I was adding the final touches to her tattoo, our fingers accidentally brushed. The contact was brief, fleeting, but it sent a jolt of electricity through my body. I looked up to find Sadie's eyes locked on mine, a slight blush creeping across her cheeks. For a moment, time seemed to stand still, the air between us charged with unspoken possibilities. Sorry, I mumbled, breaking the spell. Just need to adjust the angle a bit." Sadie's voice was soft when she replied, "No need to apologize, Autumn. Your touch is comforting." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. I focused on finishing her tattoo, trying to ignore the way my heart was racing. When I finally set down my machine and handed Sadie a mirror to inspect the finished piece, I held my breath, waiting for her reaction. "Oh, Autumn," she breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful, more than I ever could have imagined." Before I knew what was happening, Sadie had wrapped her arms around me in a tight embrace. I froze for a moment, caught off guard by the sudden contact, before slowly returning the hug. The scent of her perfume enveloped me, an intoxicating mix of jasmine and vanilla that made my head spin. As we pulled apart, our eyes met once again, and I saw something in Sadie's gaze that mirrored my own feelings, a mix of desire, uncertainty, and hope. But before either of us could say anything, the moment was broken by the sound of my next client entering the shop. "I should go," Sadie said softly, gathering her things. "Thank you, Autumn, for everything." I watched her leave, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. Over the next few days, I found myself replaying our interactions in my mind, analyzing every word, every touch. I tried to convince myself that I was reading too much into things, that Sadie was just being friendly. After all, she was younger than me, successful in her own right. Why would she be interested in a tattoo artist with a past full of complications? But despite my best efforts to keep my feelings in check, I couldn't deny the way my heart leapt every time I thought of her. I found myself sketching her likeness in my downtime, trying to capture the essence of her smile, the sparkle in her eyes. My art had always been an outlet for my emotions, and now it was filled with hidden tributes to Sadie. As the days turned into weeks, I began to wonder if I'd see Sadie again. Her tattoo was finished after all, and she had no reason to return to the shop. The thought of never seeing her again left an ache in my chest that I couldn't shake. Then, one evening as I was closing up the shop, my world turned upside down. I reached for my prized tattoo machine, a gift from my mentor and the tool I used for all my most important pieces, only to find it missing. Panic set in as I tore through the shop, searching every drawer and cabinet, but it was nowhere to be found. The reality of the situation hit me like a punch to the gut. My beloved machine had been stolen. It wasn't just a tool, it was a part of my identity, a symbol of everything I'd worked for in my career. The loss felt personal, devastating in a way I couldn't fully articulate. Without thinking, I reached for my phone and dialed Sadie's number. It was late, and we hadn't spoken outside of her appointments, but in that moment of crisis, she was the only person I wanted to talk to. "Autumn?" Her voice was thick with sleep, but tinged with concern. "Is everything okay?" "I'm sorry to call so late," I said, my voice breaking. "It's just, something's happened and I didn't know who else to turn to." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and for a moment I feared I'd overstepped. But then Sadie's voice came through, clear and determined. "I'll be right there. Don't move, okay?" As I hung up the phone, I sank to the floor of my shop, surrounded by the art that had always been my solace. But for the first time in years, it wasn't enough. In that moment of vulnerability, I realized that what I truly needed wasn't just my art, but connection, the kind of connection I'd found with Sadie. And so I waited, my heart pounding, for the woman who had unknowingly become my lifeline to arrive. Little did I know this night would change everything between us, setting in motion a series of events that would test our budding relationship and force us both to confront feelings we'd been trying to ignore. The minutes crawled by like hours as I waited for Sadie to arrive. Every sound outside the shop made me jump, hoping it was her, dreading it might be the thief returning. When I finally heard a gentle knock on the door, I scrambled to my feet, my heart pounding. Sadie stood there, her hair slightly disheveled, wearing a hastily thrown-on jacket over what looked like pajamas. The concern in her eyes was palpable as she took in my distraught state. "Autumn, what happened?" she asked, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. I tried to explain, but the words came out in a jumble. "My machine, it's gone. Someone took it. I don't know how or when, but it's just gone." Without hesitation, Sadie wrapped her arms around me, pulling me into a tight embrace. The warmth of her body against mine was comforting in a way I hadn't realized I needed. I let myself sink into her, my face buried in the crook of her neck, breathing in her familiar scent. "It's okay," she murmured, her hand gently stroking my back. "We'll figure this out together." As she held me, the emotions I'd been holding back came flooding out. I told her about the significance of the stolen machine, how it had been a gift from my mentor, the tool I'd used to create my most meaningful pieces. Sadie listened intently, her eyes never leaving mine, her hand intertwined with my own. "It's not just a machine," I finished, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's a part of me." Sadie nodded, understanding etched across her features. "Of course it is. Your art is an extension of yourself, Autumn. I get that." There was a moment of silence between us, heavy with unspoken words and emotions. Then, almost in slow motion, I saw Sadie's gaze drop to my lips. My breath caught in my throat as she leaned in, her intention clear. Our lips met in a kiss that was both gentle and urgent. It was everything I had imagined and more, soft, warm, and full of promise. My hands found their way to her waist, pulling her closer as the kiss deepened. For a moment, the world around us disappeared, and all that existed was the connection between us. When we finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, I saw a mix of emotions flash across Sadie's face, desire, happiness, and a hint of uncertainty. "I've wanted to do that for a while now," she admitted, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. "Me too," I replied, unable to keep the smile from my face despite the circumstances that had brought us to this moment. Reality came crashing back as I remembered why Sadie was here in the first place. The joy of our kiss was tempered by the gnawing worry about my stolen machine. Sadie seemed to sense the shift in my mood. "Okay," she said, her voice taking on a determined tone. "Let's focus on figuring this out. When was the last time you saw your machine?" I racked my brain, trying to piece together the events of the past few days. "I used it yesterday afternoon for a client. After that, I put it in its usual spot. I didn't have any appointments today, so I didn't notice it was missing until just now." Sadie nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Do you have security cameras in the shop?" "Just one," I replied, gesturing to the camera above the front door. "But it only covers the entrance." "That's a start," Sadie said. "We should check the footage. Maybe we'll see something suspicious." We spent the next hour reviewing the security footage, our shoulders touching as we huddled around my small computer screen. The closeness was both comforting and distracting. I found myself hyper-aware of every point of contact between us. As we watched, a figure caught our attention. A hooded person entered the shop just before closing time, lingering near the front desk for a few minutes before leaving. "That's odd," I murmured. "I don't remember anyone coming in around that time." Sadie leaned in closer, her eyes narrowed as she studied the grainy image. "Can you zoom in on their face?" I did as she asked, but the quality of the footage made it difficult to make out any distinct features. Still, there was something familiar about the way the person moved, the set of their shoulders. "Wait a minute," I said, a sudden realization hitting me. "That looks like Jake, the apprentice from the shop down the street. But why would he?" I trailed off, not wanting to voice my suspicions. Jake was new to the tattooing world, eager to make a name for himself. We'd had a few friendly conversations, and I'd even given him some advice when he was starting out. The thought that he might have betrayed that trust made my stomach churn. Sadie placed a comforting hand on my arm. "We don't know anything for sure yet, let's not jump to conclusions." I nodded, grateful for her level-headedness. "You're right, but what should we do now?" "First," Sadie said, her voice gentle but firm, "you need to rest. It's late, and you're exhausted. We can figure out our next steps in the morning." As much as I wanted to argue, to keep searching for answers, I knew she was right. The emotional roller coaster of the evening had left me drained. "Will you stay?" I asked, surprised by my own boldness. I don't want to be alone right now." 0. 25 seconds, Sadie's expression softened. "Of course, I'm not going anywhere." We made our way to the small apartment above my shop, the space suddenly feeling intimate in a way it never had before. As we settled onto the couch, Sadie pulled me close, her arms encircling me protectively. In the quiet of the night, with Sadie's steady heartbeat beneath my ear, I found myself opening up in a way I never had before. I told her about my fears, my dreams, the loneliness I'd felt before she came into my life. Sadie listened, offering words of comfort and understanding, her fingers gently combing through my hair. As exhaustion finally overtook me, I felt Sadie press a soft kiss to my forehead. "We'll figure this out together," she whispered. "I promise." Drifting off to sleep in Sadie's arms, I felt a glimmer of hope despite the uncertainty that lay ahead. Whatever challenges we might face, we would face them together. And somehow, that made everything seem a little less daunting. The next morning, I awoke to the gentle sound of Sadie's breathing beside me. For a moment, I forgot about the events of the previous night, lost in the warmth of her presence. But reality soon came crashing back, and with it, the determination to solve the mystery of my stolen machine. Sadie stirred as I sat up, her eyes blinking open slowly. "Morning," she murmured, her voice still thick with sleep. "How are you feeling?" I took a deep breath, considering the question. "Better, I think. Having you here, it helps." A soft smile played at her lips as she reached out to squeeze my hand. "I'm glad. So what's our game plan for today?" We spent the morning strategizing over coffee, the domesticity of the scene not lost on me. It felt natural, having Sadie in my space, working together to solve this problem. As we talked, I couldn't help but marvel at how quickly she had become an integral part of my life. Our first stop was Jake's tattoo shop. The walk there was tense, my mind racing with possible scenarios. What if I was wrong about Jake? What if I was right? Sadie must have sensed my anxiety because she reached out and laced her fingers through mine, the simple gesture grounding me. The shop was quiet when we arrived, with only Jake behind the counter. His eyes widened slightly when he saw us enter together, a flicker of something. Guilt? Fear? Crossing his face before he schooled his expression into a neutral smile. "Autumn, hey," he said, his voice a little too casual. "What brings you by?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "Jake, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Were you in my shop yesterday evening?" The color drained from his face, confirming my suspicions before he even opened his mouth. I can explain," he stammered. 25 seconds what followed was a confession that left me reeling. Jake admitted to taking my machine, driven by a mixture of desperation and misguided ambition. He'd been struggling to make ends meet, and the temptation of using a high-quality machine to improve his work had proven too much to resist. As Jake spoke, I felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, disappointment, and a strange sense of relief at finally knowing the truth. Sadie remained a steady presence at my side, her hand on the small of my back offering silent support. "I'm so sorry, Autumn," Jake finished, his voice breaking. "I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know what else to do." I closed my eyes, taking a moment to process everything. When I opened them again, I saw not just a thief, but a young artist who had lost his way. "Jake," I said, my voice firm but not unkind, What you did was wrong. You betrayed my trust and stole something that means a lot to me. But I understand the pressure you're under. Jake's eyes widened in surprise, clearly not expecting this response. You do? I nodded, memories of my own early struggles in the industry flooding back. I do. It doesn't excuse what you did, but I get it. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to return my machine, and you're going to work to earn back my trust. Starting by coming clean to your boss. The relief on Jake's face was palpable as he nodded eagerly, rushing to retrieve my stolen machine from its hiding place. As he handed it over, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Sadie and I left the shop, my precious machine safely in hand. As we walked back to my place, Sadie turned to me with a look of admiration. That was incredible, Autumn, the way you handled that. You're amazing, you know that? I felt a blush creep up my neck at her praise. I just did what felt right. Everyone deserves a second chance. Back at my apartment, the adrenaline of the confrontation began to wear off, leaving me feeling drained but relieved. Sadie suggested we celebrate the return of my machine, and before I knew it, we were sharing a bottle of wine on my small balcony, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of pink and orange. As we talked and laughed, the tension of the past day slowly melted away. I found myself getting lost in Sadie's eyes, in the way her laugh seemed to light up her entire face. The attraction between us, which had been simmering for weeks, now felt impossible to ignore. Sadie, I said softly, setting down my wine glass. I need to tell you something. She turned to face me, her expression open and expectant. What is it? I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. These past few weeks getting to know you, it's been incredible. You've become so important to me, in ways I never expected, and I think I'm falling in love with you. 25 seconds the moment the words left my mouth, I felt vulnerable, exposed. But then Sadie's face broke into a radiant smile, and she leaned in, capturing my lips in a kiss that left me breathless. I'm falling in love with you too, Autumn, she whispered against my lips. What followed was a night of passion and tenderness, as we explored each other with the same care and attention to detail we applied to our respective arts. Sadie's skin was like silk beneath my fingertips, her sighs of pleasure the sweetest music I'd ever heard. As I slowly unclasped her bra, revealing the delicate white mesh fabric, I couldn't help but marvel at the beauty before me. You're breathtaking, I murmured, trailing kisses along her collarbone. Sadie's response was to pull me closer, her hands tangling in my hair as our bodies moved together in perfect harmony. Every touch, every kiss felt like coming home, like finding a piece of myself I never knew was missing. Afterward, as we lay tangled in the sheets, Sadie traced lazy patterns on my skin. So, she said, a playful lilt in her voice, what happens now? I propped myself up on one elbow, gazing down at her with a mixture of love and wonder. Now, I replied, leaning in for another kiss, we start our next chapter. Together. As I drifted off to sleep that night, Sadie's warm body curled against mine, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years. The theft of my machine, while traumatic, had led me to this moment, to Sadie, and for that I couldn't help but feel grateful. Little did I know, our journey together was only just beginning, with challenges and triumphs waiting just around the corner. But in that moment, wrapped in Sadie's arms, I felt ready to face whatever the future might hold, as long as we faced it side by side. The weeks following that night with Sadie were a whirlwind of emotion and change. We fell into a comfortable rhythm, balancing our burgeoning relationship with our respective careers. Sadie would often spend evenings at my shop, sketching designs while I worked on clients, her presence a calming influence in my once solitary world. One particularly busy afternoon, as I was finishing up an intricate back piece, Sadie burst into the shop, her eyes wide with excitement. Autumn, you won't believe what happened. I set down my machine, curiosity piqued by her enthusiasm. What's going on? She brandished her tablet, showing me an email from a prominent design firm. Remember that pitch I told you about? They loved it. They want to commission a whole series of designs for their new ad campaign. Joy and pride swelled in my chest as I pulled her into a tight embrace. Sadie, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. As we celebrated her success, I couldn't help but marvel at how naturally our lives had intertwined. Sadie's triumphs felt like my own, her happiness a reflection of the love growing between us. However, our blissful bubble was soon to be tested. A few days later, I received a call from Jake, the apprentice who had stolen my machine. His voice was shaky as he spoke. "Autumn, I need your help. The police are here at the shop. Someone reported the theft and they're asking questions. I don't know what to do." My heart raced as I processed his words. I had given Jake a second chance, believing in his potential for redemption. But now, faced with the possibility of legal consequences, I found myself torn between my sense of justice and my desire to protect a fellow artist. Sadie, sensing my distress, placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. "What's wrong?" I explained the situation, watching as concern etched itself across her features. "What are you going to do?" she asked, her voice gentle but probing. It was a question I had been asking myself since I hung up the phone. On one hand, Jake had committed a crime, betraying my trust in the process. On the other, I understood the desperation that had driven him to such actions. The tattoo community was tight-knit, and a criminal record could effectively end his career before it had truly begun. I think I need to go down there," I said slowly, the decision solidifying as I spoke. "I need to talk to the police, explain the situation." Sadie nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "Do you want me to come with you?" The offer touched me deeply, another reminder of how lucky I was to have her in my life. "Yes, please. I could use the support." The ride to Jake's shop was tense, my mind racing with possible outcomes. As we pulled up, I saw 2 police officers standing outside, Jake's pale face visible through the shop window. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the car, Sadie's hand firmly clasped in mine. As we approached, one of the officers turned to us. "Can I help you?" "Yes," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm Autumn, the owner of Inked Dreams down the street. I'm here about the stolen tattoo machine." What followed was a tense conversation as I explained the situation to the officers. I emphasized Jake's remorse, his willingness to make amends, and the potential for rehabilitation. Sadie stood by my side, offering quiet support and occasionally chiming in with her perspective on the importance of second chances. As I spoke, I could see the officers' expressions softening. They exchanged a look before the senior officer turned to me. "Given the circumstances and the fact that the property has been returned, we're willing to let this go with a warning. But," he added, fixing Jake with a stern look, "any future incidents will be dealt with much more severely." Relief washed over me as Jake nodded vigorously, tears of gratitude in his eyes. As the officers left, he turned to me, his voice choked with emotion. "Autumn, I don't know how to thank you. What you did for me. I'll never forget it." I placed a hand on his shoulder, my voice firm but kind. "Use this opportunity wisely, Jake. Learn from this, grow from it. That's how you can thank me." As Sadie and I left the shop, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Relief, exhaustion, and a deep sense of having done the right thing. Sadie pulled me into a tight embrace as soon as we were outside. "You're incredible, you know that?" she murmured into my hair. "The way you handled that, the compassion you showed. It's one of the reasons I fell in love with you." Her words warmed me from the inside out, chasing away the last vestiges of doubt and tension. As we made our way back to my shop, hand in hand, I felt a renewed appreciation for the journey that had brought us together. That evening, as we curled up on my small couch, the events of the day still weighing on my mind, Sadie turned to me with a serious expression. "Autumn, I've been thinking, what would you say to the idea of us moving in together?" The question caught me off guard, but as I let it sink in, I realized it felt right. Natural, even. I'd say, "Yes, absolutely yes." Sadie's face lit up with joy, and as she leaned in to kiss me, I felt a surge of excitement for our future together. We spent the rest of the night planning and dreaming, our conversation punctuated by laughter and tender moments. As we lay in bed that night, Sadie's head resting on my chest, I reflected on the whirlwind of changes that had swept through my life since she first walked into my shop. The theft of my machine, while painful at the time, had set in motion a series of events that led me to this moment of profound happiness. "What are you thinking about?" Sadie asked, her voice soft with approaching sleep. I smiled, running my fingers through her hair. "Just how grateful I am for everything that's happened. For you." She snuggled closer, placing a soft kiss on my collarbone. I'm grateful for you too, Autumn. For us. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt a sense of contentment and excitement for what the future held. Our story was far from over. In many ways, it felt like it was just beginning. But whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we would face them together, our love a constant anchor in the ever-changing tides of life. The gentle buzz of my tattoo machine filled the air as I put the finishing touches on my latest piece. Glancing up, I caught sight of Sadie across the room, her brow furrowed in concentration as she worked on a new design. It had been 6 months since she moved in, and the sight of her in my shop, our shop now, still sent a thrill through me. Pause 0. 25 seconds as my client admired her new tattoo in the mirror, exclaiming over the intricate details. I felt a familiar surge of pride. But it wasn't just pride in my work anymore. It was pride in the life Sadie and I had built together, in the way we'd learned to blend our passions and our love into something beautiful and enduring. Later that evening, as we closed up shop, Sadie surprised me with a mischievous grin. Don't make any plans for tomorrow, she said, her eyes twinkling with excitement. I've got a surprise for you. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Oh? Care to give me a hint? She laughed, the sound still as captivating as the first time I'd heard it. Not a chance. You'll just have to wait and see. The next morning, Sadie led me to a small art gallery in a quiet corner of Boston. As we stepped inside, my breath caught in my throat. The walls were adorned with a series of stunning photographs, close-ups of tattoos I had done, each one captured in exquisite detail. Sadie, I whispered, overwhelmed by the sight. What is all this? She squeezed my hand, her voice soft with emotion. It's your art, Autumn. I've been working with a photographer friend to document your pieces. I wanted everyone to see your work the way I see it, as true art. Tears pricked at my eyes as I took in the exhibition. Each photograph told a story, not just of the tattoo itself, but of the person who wore it, of the moment it was created. I saw my own journey reflected in these images, from my early hesitant pieces to the confident, intricate designs of recent months. As we walked through the gallery, I was struck by how much my work had evolved since Sadie came into my life. Her influence was evident in the softness of certain lines, the bold use of color in others. Without realizing it, we had been inspiring each other, pushing each other to grow and explore new artistic territories. There's more, Sadie said, leading me to a small room at the back of the gallery. Inside, I found a collection of her graphic designs, each one inspired by one of my tattoos. The way she had interpreted my work, translating it into her own medium, left me speechless. Oh, Sadie, I breathed, unable to find the words to express the depth of my emotions. She wrapped her arms around me from behind, resting her chin on my shoulder. I wanted to show you how I see your art, how it inspires me every day. And I wanted to show the world what we can create together. Turning in her arms, I pulled her into a deep kiss, pouring all my love and gratitude into the gesture. When we finally parted, both a little breathless, I saw my own joy reflected in her eyes. I love you, I said, the words feeling inadequate to express the depth of my feelings. I love you too, she replied, her smile radiant. As we made our way home, hand in hand, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought us to this point. The theft of my machine, which had once seemed like such a devastating blow, now felt like a catalyst for change, the first domino in a series of events that had led me to Sadie and to this moment of profound happiness. That night, as we lay in bed, I traced the outline of the tattoo on Sadie's shoulder blade, the very one that had brought her into my shop all those months ago. You know, I mused, I never thought I'd be grateful for having my machine stolen. But if it hadn't happened, who knows if we would have found each other like this. Sadie turned to face me, her expression thoughtful. I think we would have, she said softly. Some things are just meant to be. As I gazed into her eyes, I knew she was right. What we had found together, this love, this partnership, this blending of our lives and our art, felt like more than just chance. It felt like destiny. Pause 0. 25 seconds the following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The exhibition was a resounding success, drawing attention from art critics and tattoo enthusiasts alike. Suddenly, my little shop was bustling with new clients, all eager to have their own stories etched into their skin. Sadie's career took off as well, her innovative designs catching the eye of several major companies. We found ourselves navigating the challenges of growing success together, supporting each other through long nights and stressful deadlines. Through it all, our love only deepened. We discovered new facets of each other. Sadie's surprising competitiveness when it came to board games. My hidden talent for baking when stressed. Each revelation, each shared moment, felt like another brushstroke in the masterpiece of our life together. One lazy Sunday morning, as sunlight streamed through our bedroom window, Sadie propped herself up on one elbow, gazing at me with an intensity that made my heart skip a beat. "What?" I asked, suddenly self-conscious under her scrutiny. "I was just thinking," she said, her voice soft but sure, "that I want to wake up next to you like this for the rest of my life." My breath caught in my throat as I realized what she was saying. "Sadie, are you—" She smiled, reaching out to caress my cheek. "Autumn, will you marry me?" Tears of joy sprang to my eyes as I pulled her close, kissing her with all the love and passion I felt. "Yes," I whispered against her lips. 1,000 times yes. As we lay there, wrapped in each other's arms, I marveled at the journey that had brought us to this moment. From that first day in my shop to this perfect morning, every step had led us here, to this promise of a shared future. I thought about the art we created together, not just the tattoos or the designs, but the life we were building. It was a masterpiece more beautiful and complex than anything I could have imagined on my own. As Sadie and I began to plan our wedding, I knew that this was just the beginning of our greatest adventure yet. Whatever the future held, we would face it together, our love a constant source of inspiration and strength. Looking back, I realized that sometimes the most beautiful art isn't inked on skin or drawn on paper. Sometimes it's written in the heart, created day by day in the love we share and the life we build together. And as I gazed at Sadie, my fiancé, my partner, my muse, I knew that our masterpiece was far from finished. We had a lifetime of love and art ahead of us, and I couldn't wait to see what we would create next.